On February 26, 2025, something unusual happened
When's the last time you heard from her? 2.5 weeks.
in a quiet, gated neighborhood nestled in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, northeast of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Security workers made a welfare check on a residence that had gone dark. No movement, no activity, no lights on for days.
No, dude, they're not moving. Just send somebody out here really quick.
When authorities arrived, they didn't find a minor emergency.
It smells like gas.
You smell gas?
It smells
So
like
if there was a gas leak and they both went down,
They found something that would dominate global headlines for months.
Hello, I think we just found one deceased person inside the house.
Spark a federal investigation.
They're going to work this case. They're going to look at every aspect and try to figure out the exact cause.
Generate millions of views across social media, and eventually unearth one of the strangest viral myths the internet has ever manufactured around the death of a Hollywood legend. Gene Hackman, two-time Academy Award winner.
And the Oscar goes to Gene Hackman in Unforgiven.
One of the most celebrated actors in American film history was found dead inside his sprawling mountain compound.
he's down. He's been down for a while.
Yeah.
Gene Hackman? Okay. The actor?
His wife, classical pianist Betsy Arakawa, was found dead too, and their dog.
It's not normal to find two people deceased in a residence. That's concerning. And then there was also a dog that was in a kennel that was also found deceased.
And the answers, at first, were nowhere to be found. But here's what nobody saw coming. What started as the tragic and mysterious death of a 95-year-old Hollywood icon quickly transformed into something far more bizarre, a full-blown FBI investigation. A national media firestorm.
Suspicion surrounds the deaths of Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife, whose bodies were found in their Santa Fe home.
Viral claims of secret underground tunnels, hundreds of alleged hidden bodies, and a government cover-up so elaborate that millions of people genuinely believed it. So let's do something that almost nobody on the internet has bothered to do. Let's look at what actually happened. Let's look at what the FBI actually found. Because the truth, the real, documented, verified truth, is stranger, sadder, and more gripping than any tunnel rumor could ever be. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why this case refuses to let go of the public imagination. Stay with me. The day everything went wrong, on February 26, 2025, at approximately 1:45 p.m., Santa Fe County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to an address on Old Sunset Trail in Hyde Park, where Gene Hackman, 95, and his wife Betsy Arakawa, 64, and a dog were found deceased. That sentence sounds clean and clinical. The reality was anything but. Hackman was found in the entryway of his Santa Fe home, and Arakawa was found dead in a bathroom next to a space heater. Their remains were found partially mummified. Think about that for a moment. Partially mummified, in a private residence, in one of the most recognizable Hollywood actors' homes in the country. And nobody had known for weeks, Santa Fe Sheriff Adan Mendoza told reporters. The partially mummified bodies had no external injuries, and initial tests revealed both individuals had tested negative for carbon monoxide. No external injuries, no carbon monoxide. And no one had seen or heard from either of them for what appeared to be a very long time.
How many days has it been?
Since last contact? 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks?
And they don't really see them. No one really sees them other than phone text.
Here's the first question you need to be asking yourself. How does a 95-year-old Hollywood legend and his wife die, alone, unnoticed, on a sprawling mountain compound, for weeks without anyone checking on them? Without family calling? Without staff alerting anyone? What was happening inside that compound in the days and weeks before anyone realized something was terribly wrong? We're going to answer all of that. But first, you need to understand exactly who Gene Hackman was, because that context changes everything. The man behind the walls, Eugene Allen Hackman, was born January 30th, 1930, in San Bernardino, California. He was an American actor, considered one of the greatest actors of his generation, and a paragon of the New Hollywood movement. His mainstream acting career spanned over 4 decades. He won 2 Oscars, one for The French Connection, one for Unforgiven. He starred in Superman, Mississippi Burning, The Royal Tenenbaums, and Bonnie and Clyde. He was, by any measure, one of the most accomplished actors the film industry has ever produced. And then, in 2004, he simply stopped. No farewell interviews, no retirement tour, no final press circuit. Gene Hackman walked away from Hollywood at the height of his reputation and never looked back. He moved with his wife Betsy to Santa Fe, New Mexico, buried himself in art, books, and the mountains, and became almost entirely invisible to the outside world. Unlike many traditional adobe homes in the region, the estate leaned contemporary, with extensive use of native stone, steel, glass, and floor-to-ceiling windows designed to frame the surrounding landscape. Hackman and Arakawa purchased the land in the 1990s and built the primary residence around 1997, after Hackman developed a deep attachment to Santa Fe while filming in the area. Despite being one of the most recognizable actors of his generation, Hackman lived quietly and avoided celebrity culture, blending into the community with little fanfare. He was a regular at local spots, especially Harry's Roadhouse, where staff described him as an unassuming, low-key customer who preferred to be treated like everyone else. This is the part people miss when they try to sensationalize what happened. Gene Hackman wasn't hiding something dark. He was hiding from everything he'd already escaped: the cameras, the crowds, the industry. He built a life of profound, intentional privacy in the mountains of New Mexico. And that privacy, in the end, is what made the circumstances of his death so hauntingly strange. The 13,000 square foot compound property sits on a hilltop amid piñon trees, part of the gated neighborhood Santa Fe Summit. It encompasses a main residence, a guest house, and a studio. Outside, the view extends from the Jemez Mountains to Colorado. 53 acres, gated community, mountain views. A man who didn't want to be found, and in the end, wasn't found for far too long. The questions that wouldn't stop coming. When the story broke globally on February 27, 2025, every major news outlet in the world descended on Santa Fe. And almost immediately, the official narrative, natural causes, routine deaths, nothing suspicious here, started developing cracks that the public couldn't stop picking at. How had no one noticed for weeks? Why were doors left open? Why were dogs found wandering loose on the property? What had the final days inside that compound looked like? According to a statement on the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Facebook, a German Shepherd and an Akita Shepherd mix were found roaming the Hackman's property. The home's front and back doors were left ajar, allowing the dogs to wander in and out. Think about that image. A legendary actor's mountain estate, front and back doors hanging open, dogs wandering in and out freely, and somewhere inside, 2 human beings who had been gone for weeks. The state's chief medical examiner said Hackman, 95, died as a result of heart disease, with advanced Alzheimer's disease being a contributing factor. He also had chronic high blood pressure and poor kidney function. He was in a very poor state of health, Dr. Heather Gerald told a news conference on Friday. Hackman's wife, Betsy Arakawa, died from a rare lung infection known as hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. The condition is spread by infected rodent droppings and can cause respiratory failure. 2 different causes of death, a week apart, in the same house, and a man who, according to the chief medical investigator, may never have known his wife was dead. Officials believe the late actor was alone in the house with his wife's body during that time. He might not have realized Arakawa had died due to the progression of his Alzheimer's. It's quite possible he was not aware she was deceased, the medical examiner said at the news conference. That single sentence is one of the most heartbreaking things to come out of this entire case. A 95-year-old man, severe Alzheimer's disease, alone in a 13,000 square foot mountain compound. with the body of his wife of 34 years somewhere in the house, and no capacity left to fully understand what had happened. But before that picture could fully take hold in the public consciousness, something else happened. Something that would pull the entire story in a completely different direction. When the story started shifting, investigators initially believed they had a clear timeline. Betsy Arakawa had last been seen alive on February 11, 2025, captured on surveillance video running errands at a pharmacy, a pet store, and a grocery store before returning to the gated neighborhood at approximately 5:15 p.m. that evening. Numerous emails were unopened on her computer on February 11th. Investigators believed she died that day based on surveillance footage of her running errands and then using a fob to gain access into the gated community where she and Jean lived. And then the cell phone records came in, and everything shifted. Authorities announced a new update in the investigation. Arakawa is believed to have died later than originally thought. Pending cell phone records, the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office investigation showed the last known activity of Mrs. Hackman to be February 11, 2025. We can now confirm that Mrs. Hackman's phone was utilized on the morning of February 12 to call a medical center in Santa Fe, Cloudberry Health. A total of 3 calls were made that morning, all to the medical center. One incoming call was made to Mrs. Hackman from the same medical center that afternoon. That appeared as a missed call on Mrs. Hackman's cell phone. 3 calls to a medical center on February 12th, then a missed call. Back, and then silence. Dr. Josiah Child, a physician who oversees Cloudberry Health, the medical practice that Betsy called on February 12th, according to preliminary phone records, said the late classical pianist did not initially express symptoms of hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. Betsy had actually made an appointment to have an initial visit with one of our doctors on the 12th. Dr. Child said she was trying to get help. She called a doctor's office 3 times the morning of February 12. She made an appointment, and then she missed the call back that afternoon. And she never made it to that appointment. Records released earlier in the investigation showed Arakawa made phone calls and internet searches as she scoured for information on flu-like symptoms and breathing techniques. A woman alone in a mountain compound, researching her own symptoms online, trying to reach a doctor, running out of time, and a husband in an advanced state of Alzheimer's who couldn't help her call for help or possibly even understand what was unfolding around him. That is the real story of what happened inside that house, and it is devastating. Hackman, 95, likely died several days after Arakawa, on February 18th, when his pacemaker last recorded his heartbeat. February 12th, Betsy calls for help. February 18th, Jean's pacemaker goes silent. February 26th, maintenance workers notice the compound has gone dark, and authorities are called. The bodies found partially mummified, doors left open, dogs wandering free, and the investigation, already strange, was about to get even stranger in the court of public opinion. The rumor that went viral. Here's where this story takes a turn that reveals something genuinely alarming. Not about Jean Hackman, but about us, about the internet, about the ecosystem of content that millions of people now consume as if it were news. A rumor that the FBI was investigating a hidden tunnel found beneath the Santa Fe, New Mexico, home of Jean Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa, circulated online in March 2025, not long after maintenance workers found Hackman and Arakawa dead inside the home. The claim further purported that 701 bodies were found in the alleged tunnel. 701 bodies in a tunnel under Jean Hackman's house. It appears to have originated in a YouTube video posted by a channel called The Ultimate Discovery. The video had accumulated more than 800,000 views as of this writing, prompting Snopes readers to reach out about the veracity of the claim. Snopes found no evidence to support this claim, and no credible news outlet has reported on the matter. 800,000 views. Nearly 1 million people watched a video claiming that Jean Hackman had a secret underground tunnel filled with 701 bodies. And here's the part that should make you stop and think. They believed it, or at least entertained it long enough to click, watch, share, and send it to their friends. Why? What is it about the human brain and about this specific case that made a claim this extreme feel plausible to so many people? The answer, if you think about it carefully, tells you something important. The real facts of this case were already strange enough to feel unreal. A Hollywood legend no one had seen in years. A wife dead from a rare rodent-borne disease. Doors left open. Mummified remains. A man with Alzheimer's, alone in a mountain compound with his wife's body. An investigation that kept shifting its timeline. A federal restraining order blocking autopsy photos from being released. When the real story is already that disorienting, the conspiracy theory isn't filling a void. It's feeding an anxiety that the real facts already created. And the internet knows how to feed that anxiety better than any media machine in history. The orders stated the Office of the Medical Investigator and the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office are hereby temporarily restrained from disclosing through IPIRA or other means any and all photographs or videos containing images of the following: the body of Gene Hackman, the body of Betsy Arakawa Hackman, the interior of Mr. and Mrs. Hackman's residence. To ordinary people who didn't understand the routine legal reasons for that restraining order, it looked like a cover-up. And once the word cover-up enters a story already filled with death, isolation, and mystery, you don't need 701 bodies to go viral. You just need one person to ask the question out loud. What the FBI actually found. Let's be completely clear about what law enforcement actually found when they investigated the Hackman property. Because the real findings are disturbing enough without fabrication. Investigators documented cluttered rooms filled with clothing, boxes, diapers, and dog cages. The home was also found to be infested with rats, a stark contrast to its polished public image. Despite these conditions, health officials later clarified that the interior living spaces showed no active rodent presence. Nestled among pinon and juniper trees, the property mirrors others in the region, where wildlife and mice are common due to the surrounding landscape. This is what investigators actually found. Not a secret tunnel, not 701 bodies, cluttered rooms, rodent activity on the property. An elderly man in the advanced stages of Alzheimer's and a wife fighting a disease she may not have fully understood she had. Arakawa tested negative for COVID-19 and the flu, and showed no signs of trauma. Her carbon monoxide levels were within normal range, and she tested positive for caffeine and negative for alcohol and intoxicating drugs. Arakawa's autopsy and toxicology reports confirmed her main cause of death was hantavirus pulmonary syndrome.
Betsy Hackman, aged 65 years, is hantavirus.
The 95-year-old actor also was in the advanced stages of Alzheimer's disease and likely had not eaten for a long time, according to his autopsy. He tested negative for hantavirus. 2 people, 2 different causes of death, 1 week apart, one unable to help the other, and one possibly unaware his partner was already gone. That is the entire story, and it is profoundly human and profoundly tragic. But here's what no one is talking about, the question that sits underneath all of this, that no tunnel rumor can actually answer, and that the facts themselves raise in the quietest, most unsettling way. How does a man worth $80 million, living on a 53-acre gated compound in a mountain community, die alone and undiscovered for a week? Where was the support system? Where was the help? Why were there no in-home caregivers for a man in the advanced stages of Alzheimer's? Why did it take security workers doing a routine welfare check to find them? That question is one the official investigation never fully resolved, and it's the question that genuinely deserves to be asked. What the sheriff said, and what he didn't. Santa Fe Sheriff Aidan Mendoza confirmed during a news conference that detectives had already found answers to many pending questions in the Hackman's case, but were still waiting on specific data to tie up any loose ends. He said they had answers to many pending questions, not all, many. Hackman died due to hypertensive atherosclerosis cardiovascular disease, with Alzheimer's disease as a significant contributing factor. He was likely alone in the home for about a week until he died around February 18th, which was the last time activity was recorded on his pacemaker. The investigation concluded. Natural causes, no foul play, no tunnels, no cover-up, but the legal maneuvering around the case told a different story about the family's relationship to what the investigation had uncovered. A temporary restraining order was filed blocking the release of autopsy photos, body camera footage, crime scene images, and any footage of the animals found at the property. Hackman's estate sought to keep those images private. To the conspiracy theorist, this was proof of something sinister. To anyone who has watched a family navigate the painful public aftermath of a loved one's unusual death, it was something else entirely. A family trying to protect the last shreds of dignity in an undignified situation. At the time of his passing in February 2025, Gene Hackman had an estimated net worth of $80 million, a fortune built through his legendary 5-decade acting career and successful second act as a historical novelist. As of 2026, his estate is valued closer to $90 million, following the sale of his Santa Fe compound and a high-profile auction of his personal art and film memorabilia, which raised an additional $3 million. The listing represents a rare glimpse into the private life Hackman cultivated after largely stepping away from Hollywood, and it arrives amid lingering public interest surrounding the unusual circumstances of the couple's deaths. The 53-acre estate, located in a gated enclave just northeast of downtown Santa Fe, is listed for $6.25 million, and in January 2026, the $6.25 million 53-acre property was officially listed on January 16th by Sotheby's International Realty. As of January 27th, the house was listed as pending sale. It sold in 11 days. The house where Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa spent their final years, the mountain compound that a viral video claimed concealed hundreds of bodies beneath it, sold in 11 days to an undisclosed buyer. Sotheby's reportedly vetted all potential buyers to prevent those driven purely by morbid curiosity from touring the property. Think about what that says about demand, about legacy, about our collective obsession with the places where fame ends, the legacy of the rumor. The secret tunnel story never happened. Snopes confirmed it. No credible news organization reported it. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office never mentioned it. No law enforcement body anywhere ever corroborated it. It was invented, almost certainly generated by an AI-assisted content channel chasing views, and it went viral anyway. But why? Because we live in a media environment where the first story to reach someone emotionally often becomes the story they believe, regardless of what the evidence actually shows. A video with dramatic music, a deep narrator's voice, and a headline that begins with the words FBI found will always reach more people than a careful, documented account of what actually happened. Always. And because the real story, a beloved but reclusive actor dying of heart disease and Alzheimer's, while his wife, who died of a rare disease a week earlier, lay undiscovered in a bathroom, doesn't give people a villain. It doesn't give them a conspiracy to solve or a government agency to distrust. It gives them grief. It gives them a mirror. A 95-year-old man, stripped by Alzheimer's of everything that once made him Gene Hackman, wandering a 13,000 square foot mountain compound, possibly confused about why his wife wasn't speaking to him, why the house was so quiet, why the dogs had gone still. That's the real tunnel. That's the real secret that nobody wanted to reckon with. Not a physical passage beneath the earth, but the passage every human being eventually travels, into age and illness and the kind of solitude that even fame and fortune cannot insulate you from. The internet built a tunnel to avoid looking at that truth directly, and 800,000 people clicked on it. Who Gene Hackman really was. It would be wrong to end this video without taking a moment to remember who Gene Hackman actually was. not as a mystery to be solved, or a body found in a compound, or a viral story about a tunnel that never existed. He was a man who grew up in difficult circumstances in Kansas, dropped out of school at 16 to join the Marines, and was told by his drama teachers at the Pasadena Playhouse that he and his classmate Dustin Hoffman were the two least likely people in their class to ever succeed in Hollywood. He proved them spectacularly wrong. For nearly 5 decades, he delivered some of the most raw, physical, ferocious performances in American cinema. As Popeye Doyle in The French Connection, as Little Bill Daggett in Unforgiven, as Lex Luthor in Superman, as Royal Tenenbaum, as the preacher in The Firm, as the coach in Hoosiers. Character after character, year after year, and never once losing the edge that made him unlike anyone else in the room. And then he walked away, quietly, into the Ende, mountains, into painting, into writing historical novels, into a life beside a woman he'd been married to since 1991, in a house they built together from the ground up, on a hillside overlooking the Jemez Mountains. That is Gene Hackman's real secret. Not a tunnel, not a conspiracy. A man who chose the mountains over the spotlight and spent his final years doing exactly what he wanted, beside the person he loved. The tragedy isn't that he died with secrets. The tragedy is that he died alone in a house that had gone quiet, and no one noticed soon enough. The case of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa is closed. Natural causes, no foul play, no tunnels, no bodies beneath the earth. But the story refuses to close in the public mind. And now you understand why. Because the real facts are haunting enough. A shifting timeline, a wife calling for help on what may have been her last full day, a man with Alzheimer's alone with her body, a viral rumor that outran the truth by millions of views, a compound sold in 11 days to a buyer we'll never know. There are questions this case raised that no investigation can fully answer, and they're the questions that matter most. Not whether there was a tunnel, but whether we as a society do enough to check on our most vulnerable, whether privacy becomes isolation, whether solitude becomes abandonment, whether fame is any kind of protection against the quiet, undramatic ways that lives can end. Gene Hackman spent his whole career asking human beings to see themselves clearly in the characters he played. In the end, his death asks us to do the same thing. If this story moved you or made you think, drop a comment below. And if you're watching this and you haven't checked on an elderly parent, a neighbor, or a family member recently, maybe this is the sign to do it today. Subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that the internet thinks it knows, and the truth that gets buried underneath the noise.